In life, we often have to face pain, loss, and negative emotions that weigh down and exhaust the soul. The Buddha taught that it is our attachment and clinging to what is past that prevent us from letting go, keeping our minds constantly occupied with worries and regrets. His teaching on letting go is a path leading us to inner peace, a key to dissolving all suffering, allowing our souls to be free and light. The Buddha said, "Do not cling to the past, do not worry about the future, just live fully in the present." This is a profound reminder to live in each moment, to release what does not belong to us and cannot be changed. In this act of letting go, we realize that what we once thought important can never compare to the serenity of the heart. When we let go of troubles, forgive, and release our worries, our minds can open up to welcome better things. Letting go does not mean forgetting or abandoning responsibility, but rather freeing ourselves from negative emotions and dark thoughts so we can see things with more clarity and peace. Only when we release fear, anger, and unrealistic desires can our souls truly be at ease. This allows us to live lightly, free from the burdens of unnecessary anxieties. Thank you for watching Letting Go, Finding Peace. The Buddha's teachings, like a cool spring, can calm the storms within. Only when we truly understand and practice letting go will peace come to us. And that is the journey of healing. When we go through hardships and wounds in life, there is often an indescribable feeling that keeps us trapped. That is attachment, when the mind keeps spinning around wounds, unhappy memories, and things we cannot change. The Buddha taught that for our souls to be at peace, we must learn to let go. But letting go is not easy. It is a deep process that requires us to learn to see ourselves and the world around us differently. Letting go does not mean shirking responsibility or erasing the past, but rather liberating ourselves from what no longer serves our growth. The Buddha taught that pain in the heart is a natural part of life, but it does not have to last forever. When we cannot let go, that pain becomes a burden, imprisoning the mind and preventing us from living fully in the present. If we keep holding on to negative emotions, worries about the future, or regrets about the past, life will become nothing but a chain of suffering and sorrow. The Buddha's words, "What has passed, let it flow away. Do not let the past paralyze your present," are a profound reminder. We must learn to release what cannot be changed so that the heart can find peace. Letting go means not letting negative emotions control our lives. And by living fully in each present moment, we begin to heal from deep within. Letting go is a process, not something that can be done instantly. To truly let go, we must first learn to recognize our emotions. When we feel anger, sorrow, or sadness, we must acknowledge that these emotions are dominating us. Only by recognizing them clearly can we take control. Then, we must learn to accept them, not to suppress or ignore them. Acceptance does not mean surrender or giving up, but rather understanding that emotions are a part of life and that we can move through them. The Buddha taught that when facing pain, we must not let it control our lives. Learn to look at it with mindfulness so we are not dominated by it, but can instead find the path to healing. For example, when anger arises, instead of letting it erupt, take a moment to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and realize that anger will solve nothing. When we see this truth, the anger will gradually subside and we will find peace within ourselves. Healing is not an instant change. It is a long journey. This journey is not always easy, but as we persist and begin to see everything with a tranquil heart, we will realize that all of life's difficulties can be overcome. Step by step, day by day, we will feel peace returning to our hearts. Sometimes we feel exhausted and unsure what to do in times of hardship. But the Buddha taught that in every moment we can find peace. Peace is not something far away. It is a feeling within us. When we know how to pause, let go of our worries, and cherish what we have, peace will naturally come. The Buddha said, "Live a gentle life. Do not cling too tightly to what is not yours." When we learn to let go, we not only free ourselves from negative emotions, but also learn to live in harmony with ourselves and with others. That is the path to peace within the soul. Remember, life is not always smooth, and we cannot control everything. But in those challenging times, we must know how to find our peace again. When we let go, we free ourselves not only from pain, but also open our hearts to receive better things. Let your heart be healed, and your life will become much lighter. Ultimately, healing can only begin when we allow ourselves to truly love who we are. Letting go is not abandonment, but an act of understanding and accepting everything in life. Let compassion guide your way, and let love and forgiveness be the driving forces that help you overcome all challenges. Life is not always easy, but when we know how to let go, we can feel the peace the Buddha spoke of. Open your heart and allow peace and happiness to come to you. A peaceful mind is where everything begins, and when the mind is calm, everything becomes better. In the busyness of life, we sometimes forget that our soul, too, needs rest and healing. To live in peace and happiness, the first and most important step is to learn how to release unnecessary worries and troubles. The Buddha taught that an unyielding mind, one that cannot let go, is the root of all suffering. It is like holding on to a burning coal without daring to drop it, only to burn our own hands. This inability to let go is what keeps us trapped in suffering with no way out. There is a story about a Zen master who taught his disciple a profound lesson on letting go. One day, while the master and his disciples were meditating under the shade of a tree, a disciple suddenly became very angry about something that had happened earlier. His mind could not release that anger. It clung to him like an endless loop. Seeing this, the master smiled, called him closer, and said, "Imagine that you are holding a burning coal. How does it feel?" The disciple replied, "Master, it hurts and burns intensely, but I cannot let it go." The master nodded and said, "Then you understand. When you hold on to anger, when you refuse to let go, that is the feeling of holding a burning coal. You can keep it in your heart for as long as you wish, but only you will suffer. Anger changes nothing. It only leaves you more exhausted and in pain." This lesson is deeply meaningful. A mind that cannot release is the cause of suffering we may not even realize. When we cannot let go of sadness, anger, or any negative emotion, we carry wounds in our hearts without knowing it. These emotions are like burning coals. They only deepen our pain, yet we are afraid to release them. The Buddha taught that in life, what matters is not how much we can achieve, but how much unnecessary burden we can release. Letting go does not mean giving up or abandoning everything. It is freeing the soul from invisible weights. When we know how to let go, we find peace within ourselves. Just like holding a burning coal, only when we dare to drop it will we stop feeling pain. Letting go is an act of compassion toward ourselves. When we release what no longer brings happiness or peace, we open our hearts and create space for better things to come. To do this, we must understand that negative emotions are only a part of life, not the whole of it. When anger, sadness, or worry arises, we must learn to accept them without letting them rule our lives. Acceptance does not mean ignoring them. It means acknowledging them calmly without overreacting and without letting them cling to us. The Zen master did not only teach his disciples about letting go, he also showed them how to practice it in each moment. Sometimes letting go is as simple as not letting the mind be dragged into negative thoughts. When something unpleasant happens, instead of letting it bother us all day, we can choose to take a deep breath, be still, and remind ourselves, this is just a challenge, not the verdict of my life. To practice letting go, we should spend time each day in meditation to feel the deep peace within. Meditation is not merely sitting in silence. It is returning to ourselves, like observing and understanding the emotions and thoughts within. Through meditation, we learn to release needless worries and allow the mind to become clearer. Healing is not about erasing all the pain of the past, but about accepting it and learning to live with it. The Buddha taught that while we cannot change the past, we can change how we see and respond to it. When we can let go and live with our emotions without being controlled by them, our hearts will be healed. From there, we will feel lighter, no longer bound by anxiety, sadness, or anger. Healing is not a quick journey. It is a long process that requires patience and daily practice. But once we learn to let go, to live peacefully in each moment, we will find peace and freedom within ourselves. Remember, in life, there are things we cannot control, but how we respond to them is entirely in our hands. When we learn to let go, to free our minds, we will find happiness and serenity. This is the path the Buddha taught, a path of compassion and love for ourselves. Release the burdens in your heart and allow your soul to be free and healed, so that each day is a step closer to inner peace. Suffering in this life often does not come from external circumstances, but from our own minds being unable to let go of what has passed. When the mind still clings to the past, we create burdens for ourselves. We may be haunted by old memories, unpleasant events, mistakes, or losses that cannot be undone. Yet life goes on, and what has passed is only a small part of each person's long journey. The story of a woman named Lan is a vivid example. She had endured great losses in life, pains that no one could replace. Her mother passed away when she was young, and later her husband left her during her most vulnerable years. Though she tried to forget the past, each time an old memory returned, the pain came rushing back. It was a wound that could never heal because her heart still could not let go. One day, Lan met a teacher. This teacher did not teach her complex philosophies, but simply told her, "Let go of what cannot be changed." That sentence was like a splash of cold water awakening her soul. From that moment, Lan began to learn how to let go, how to stop letting memories and losses bring her suffering. Like a boat moving across the sea, we cannot avoid the waves of life. But if we do not know how to let go of the heavy stones in the boat, we will never move forward. Our suffering comes from holding on too tightly to what has passed and refusing to allow ourselves to live fully in the present. When we cling to what cannot be changed, suffering deepens. It is like gripping a thorn, knowing it will pierce our skin and draw blood, yet still refusing to release it. The Buddha taught, suffering comes only when we cannot let go. The pain is not from what has happened, but from our inability to see it clearly and accept it. Imagine a quiet morning when you wake up, everything's still and calm. You can feel each breath, each step on the familiar path. If your mind is not tangled in thoughts of the past, you will feel lighter. A peaceful life does not mean a life without difficulties, but a life where we know how to let go of unnecessary worries. Clinging not only brings us suffering, but it also robs us of the joy and happiness life offers. Life flows like a river. It cannot flow backward. We cannot change the past, but we can change how we perceive it and our attitude toward it. Acceptance is an important part of healing. When we accept ourselves and what has happened, our hearts become lighter. Like my friend, whenever he feels stressed or anxious about something that cannot be changed, I tell him, try letting go so your soul can be free. Indeed, when he releases his worries, life feels easier and the world around him seems brighter. Life will always bring challenges, but without letting go, we remain lost in suffering and sorrow. To heal and find peace, we must learn to let go. Letting go is not forgetting. It is viewing everything with calmness, without letting it control our emotions. Let what has passed flow away like leaves drifting down a river, and allow yourself to live fully in the present moment. Only when we truly let go can we feel peace in our hearts. Then, every step we take will no longer be a burden, but a journey filled with light and hope. Life is full of challenges, suffering, and sadness, but when we do not know how to let go, all of these become a lifelong burden. The Buddha taught that letting go is not weakness, but a courageous choice to live more lightly, freeing the soul from unnecessary pain. In that letting go, we find freedom and peace. When life does not go as we wish, we often carry negative emotions like anger, regret, or fear. These feelings exhaust us, keeping our minds captive, and we may not even realize they are the source of our pain. The Buddha taught that letting go is neither weakness nor failure. It is a deliberate choice to live more lightly and freely. Letting go does not mean ignoring everything. It means understanding and accepting that some things in life cannot be changed, and we do not need to hold on to them anymore. We can easily understand this through the image of someone gripping a hot stone. If they do not let go, their hand will burn. Letting go is not abandonment, it is liberation. When we drop the stone, we no longer feel the pain. Similarly, when we let go of pain, anger, and negative emotions, we no longer carry a heavy heart, and the soul becomes freer and more at peace. Pain in life is unavoidable, but it is not something we must keep in our hearts forever. The Buddha taught that when we cannot let go, we imprison ourselves in that pain, making both mind and body weary. Letting go is the path to healing. When we let go, we no longer suffer over what is past and can live fully in the present. Healing is not about erasing all wounds, but about learning to live with them gently. The Buddha said, only forgiveness and letting go can bring peace back to the soul. When we forgive others, we do not do it for them. We do it to free ourselves. When we release anger and sadness, we allow our hearts to heal and free ourselves from the control of negative emotions. One reason we cannot find happiness is because we cling to things that cannot be changed. The Buddha taught that happiness is not found somewhere far away. It is the peace within our own hearts. When we no longer worry about the past, fear the future, or cling to what cannot be changed, we can feel happiness in each moment. We often seek happiness outside ourselves, through work, relationships, or material achievements. But in truth, real happiness comes from inner peace. When we can let go of unrealistic expectations and irreparable losses, we realize that everything around us is already enough, and true happiness can be as simple as that. The Buddha taught that letting go is not weakness, but a strong choice to live more lightly. We can hold on to pain, but in the end, it is we ourselves who suffer. Like a branch bent by the wind, if we keep resisting the natural flow, we will never find peace. Letting go is surrendering to life, understanding that there are things we cannot change and that we do not need to control everything. The Buddha taught that when our hearts return to themselves, we will find inner peace. We do not need to chase after things outside. We only need to be still, to return to ourselves with understanding and self-love. Letting go is an act of self-love. It is how we care for our own souls, allowing them to be pure, light, and free. Letting go does not mean we stop caring. It means we choose what is truly important for ourselves. Sometimes we must learn to say no to unnecessary demands and learn to say yes to the things that bring peace to our hearts. When we release what is unnecessary, we create more space and energy to nurture the positive in our lives. Ultimately, letting go is a journey of growth. It requires patience and understanding, but once we set foot on this path, we will feel the lightness in every step. Let forgiveness, love, and compassion guide you through life's challenges. Let go so your soul can be free, healed, and at peace. Letting go is not weakness. It is a strong choice to live a lighter and more meaningful life. When we speak of forgiveness, most of us think about generosity and compassion toward others. But in truth, forgiveness is not only an act for the one who hurt us, it is also a journey for ourselves. Forgiveness is how we lighten our hearts, so we no longer carry the pain of the past or harbor grudges in our minds. Forgiveness is letting go, refusing to let old wounds keep bleeding and harming our present life. The Buddha taught that anger and hatred only make us suffer more. Others may not even remember what they did to us, yet we carry those wounds forever. That is why letting go and forgiving are so important. We forgive not because the other person deserves it, but because we ourselves deserve peace and the freedom not to be imprisoned by negative emotions. When a fierce storm passes, the sky becomes clear again, and so can we. Each act of forgiveness washes away the wounds in our hearts, helping us open up to receive love from life. Like a jar already full, if we refuse to empty it, it cannot hold anything new or beautiful. Likewise, if we do not forgive and release the old fragments of the past, our hearts will have no room for new peace and love. Think about the times you have been hurt. Often, we keep replaying the old memories, the words and actions that caused us pain. But in those moments, do we really feel better by holding on to our anger? The Buddha taught that pain is not caused by others, It is caused by our inability to let go and forgive. Every time we feel anger, we hurt ourselves, trapping our minds in an endless cycle of resentment and suffering. Forgiveness, then, is how we free ourselves. It is not about making someone else feel better. It is about helping ourselves live more comfortably and peacefully. Like a boat at sea, only when it releases its heavy stones can it sail farther. And we are the same. Only when we let go of what is unnecessary in our hearts can we continue our journey with lightness and serenity. When we forgive, it does not mean we agree with what happened. It does not mean we accept the pain someone caused us. Forgiveness is simply our own choice to no longer allow old wounds to hurt us again. It is how we care for our souls, how we love ourselves. As the Buddha taught, to forgive others is to open your heart so that peace can enter. And remember, forgiveness is not only about releasing negative emotions, it is also about valuing ourselves. We forgive not because others deserve it, but because we deserve a life of tranquility, unclouded by past wounds. When we forgive, we not only free the other person, we also free ourselves from the pain that clings to us. Then we will see that with each passing day, our hearts grow lighter and we move closer to the peace the Buddha spoke of. So if one day you find yourself carrying pain or resentment in your heart, take a moment to look within. Let forgiveness be the bridge that allows you to keep living with an open heart, with compassion and peace. Do not let those pains become burdens that drag you down. Instead, learn to let go and love yourself, for you truly deserve a life of peace, lightness, and love. Letting go in love and in life may seem simple, but in reality, it is a profound lesson each of us must experience for ourselves. Have you ever felt that a love or a relationship has grown heavy, leaving you unable to find joy or peace within yourself? In such moments, we often cling desperately, hoping things will change. Yet in truth, it is this very clinging that becomes the heaviest burden on our hearts. The story of Lan and Min is a clear example of letting go in love. Lan loved Min passionately from the very beginning, placing all her trust in the relationship. But over time, Min grew distant and less caring. Lan tried everything to preserve their love, compromising, changing herself, but nothing seemed to work. She kept waiting, tormenting herself with endless questions. Did I do something wrong? Is there anything I can do to change this? One day, standing before the mirror, Lan saw a woman who was too exhausted to find herself in that relationship anymore. She realized that loving someone is not sacrificing yourself to make them change, but loving them with respect and freedom. When Min was no longer willing to love her as before, she could not force him to stay, nor could she live in a love that was only one-sided. She began to understand that love is not something to be held tightly, but something that must come and go naturally. That was when Lan decided to let go. She refused to keep living in those negative emotions. She told herself, if he is meant for me, he will return. If not, I will find happiness elsewhere. Letting go was not giving up. It was allowing herself to reclaim lightness and peace in her heart. Only then did she truly understand that in love, not everything that comes to us will stay. What is not ours will naturally leave, and we must learn to let it go. This story is not only Lan's, it could be any of ours. Sometimes, life and love present us with challenges we could never have anticipated. Yet it is precisely these challenges that help us grow. Letting go is an art of living, an act of lightening the heart and rediscovering peace within. When we let go, we are not abandoning everything. We are learning to see what truly matters and what is only temporary. We must understand that relationships and situations in life are not always meant to last forever. Change is inevitable, and letting go opens the door to new joys, happiness, and freedom. I remember a time when a friend of mine shared about a past love she could not forget. She told me that although it had ended long ago, her heart still could not escape those memories. I keep thinking about him, keep living in what has passed, she said. But now I realize I must learn to let go. Her words made me think deeply. Perhaps letting go is the key to finding ourselves. Perhaps when we let go, we no longer live in the past, but fully embrace the present. We can love and feel connected to the people and things around us, but sometimes that attachment makes us forget ourselves. Think of a beautiful morning when you wake with a light heart, no longer worrying about the past or the future. Simply living fully in the present moment allows us to feel the joy and peace life offers. Letting go in love and in life is not easy, but when we manage to do it, life becomes lighter, fresher, and filled with hope. Believe that when we release what does not belong to us, we open our hearts to receive better things, true love, and new opportunities in life. The lightness of the soul is something not easily found in today's stressful world. We often hear about relaxing the body and releasing physical tension. Yet few notice that letting go is not just a physical act. It is an opening of the mind, a liberation of the heart and soul. Letting go is a profound process of healing, freeing us from the chains of negative thoughts, worries, and painful emotions from the past. The Buddha taught that one of the deepest roots of suffering is the unwillingness to let go. We often carry within us wounds from the past, anger, hatred, and hurts that cannot be erased. Our minds are like fields filled with bad seeds, and these negative thoughts keep sprouting, preventing us from feeling peace within. That is why letting go is not only a liberation for the body, but also for the soul, helping us cleanse the stains in our hearts and embrace lightness and serenity. When we let go, our minds are no longer imprisoned by negative thoughts, endless worries about the future, or regrets about the past. Letting go means we no longer dwell on what has happened or what might happen. We stop creating pressure in our minds and instead learn to live in the present, cherishing every moment and every breath. Like a river freed from rocks, water flows naturally and gently. Our souls are the same. When freed from blockages, they become light, free, and tranquil. Releasing the mind is not easy. We live in a world full of conflict and tension, where each day brings challenges, worries, and sometimes pain. But the Buddha taught that these thoughts are like passing clouds. They are not the ultimate truth. Each time we allow negative thoughts to dominate, we give them control over our lives. Yet when we realize they are only illusions, they can no longer disturb our peace. A light heart does not mean a life without difficulties or challenges. It means not letting those difficulties weigh us down. Each time we face challenges, instead of worrying or complaining, we can view them as opportunities to learn and grow. When we let go of worries, we find we can face any challenge calmly, unshaken by negative emotions. This is the true strength of the soul, a strength that comes not from physical power, but from calmness and clarity in thought and action. Letting go is also an act of self-love. When we release guilt, anger, or resentment, we not only free others, but also ourselves. It is hard to live with resentment, for it only makes us heavier and more uneasy. But when we forgive and let go, our hearts become light, peaceful, and full of love. As the Buddha said, when you let go, you do not just free others, you also free yourself. When the heart is light, we experience peace, not an external stillness, but a stillness deep within. From there, we can live a fuller, richer life. In those moments of inner peace, we feel a deep connection with ourselves, with others, and with the vast universe. So, take a moment to pause and look within. Ask yourself, am I carrying things I do not need in this life? Learn to release worries, anger, and old pains. Loosen your mind so that your soul becomes light and tranquil. Live in the present and cherish each moment, for only with a light heart can we truly find peace and happiness in life. Mastering our emotions is one of the Buddha's profound teachings and an essential part of the journey toward peace and happiness. Life is always full of changes and challenges in relationships, work, and circumstances beyond our control. But in all of this, there is one thing we can always control: our own emotions and attitudes. The Buddha taught that while we cannot control everything around us, we can master our emotions and attitudes. And this mastery is what allows us to live with peace and freedom. In every moment of life, we face different emotions: joy, sadness, anger, worry. These feelings are natural and unavoidable. The problem is not that emotions arise, but how we respond to them. If we let emotions dictate all our actions and thoughts, we will be swept away in their currents, losing mindfulness and inner peace. The Buddha taught that letting go is not just about relaxing the body, it is about relaxing the mind and learning not to let emotions control our every action. Letting go is when we pause and prevent anger or worry from taking over our hearts, instead, choosing to see and accept emotions objectively. When we stop letting emotions control us, we see that negative feelings no longer have power over us. We can experience them without letting them dictate our actions and thoughts. Mastering emotions begins with mindfulness. When we realize that every emotion originates from thoughts and beliefs within our minds, we are no longer so easily swept away by negative feelings. The Buddha taught that everything external is merely a reflection of what exists within us. When we change our perspective and our attitude toward events, our emotions will change as well. Therefore, mastering emotions is not about suppressing or denying them, but about learning to recognize and accept them calmly, without letting them control our lives. Imagine you are faced with a situation that makes you angry. Instead of reacting immediately with anger, you can pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what is making me feel this way? Why am I angry? When you stop to reflect, you will see that anger often stems from our inability to control something or from our reaction to someone else's actions. But if you view the situation calmly, you will realize that anger does not solve the problem, it only harms you. At that moment, you can choose not to let anger control you, and instead choose calmness and understanding. The Buddha taught that peace is not something distant, but the result of mastering the mind and emotions. When we learn to master our emotions, we are no longer tossed about by powerful emotional waves, but can stand steady in the ocean of life, living freely and peacefully. Emotional mastery allows us to face any challenge without being shaken, maintaining clarity and calm in all situations. Letting go and mastering emotions is not something that happens in a day. It is a long process of practice. Every day, we must cultivate mindfulness, learning to recognize and understand our own emotions. At times, mastering emotions can be a great challenge because in moments of stress, anxiety, or when facing negative feelings, we may easily forget our calm and get swept into the current of emotion. Yet it is precisely in those moments that we must remember, peace can only come when we do not let emotions dictate our actions. Remember, the Buddha taught, a mind that does not waver, that is not angry or anxious, is a master of itself. When we do not let emotions control us, we find freedom, lightness, and peace within. We can face any trial or difficulty without losing our clarity or compassion. And when we live with a tranquil heart, undisturbed by emotional waves, we find true happiness, not from the outside, but from within our own soul. This life, from the moment we are born until we return to the earth, is a constant stream of change. Moments of happiness and sadness, people who pass through our lives, challenges and joys, all are transient. The Buddha taught that change is the nature of life, and if we learn to accept it, life will become lighter and more peaceful. Letting go is the acceptance that everything in life is in constant flux, and nothing is permanent. We cannot control everything around us, but we can learn to befriend change, to welcome it as an inevitable part of life. Change, whether good or bad, may bring pain and loss. But if we understand that nothing in this world lasts forever, we will fear less, cling less, and be less driven by negative emotions. The Buddha said, change is the natural way of all things. Do not fear when things change. Open your heart to receive change. When we live in acceptance, we no longer try to hold on to what is past, to those who have left, or to opportunities that have been lost. Accepting change does not mean giving up or surrendering. It is a deep understanding that everything has its time, its beginning, and its end. What happens in life is not random. It is part of the continuous flow of existence. If we can let go of expectations and thoughts that cling to the past, we will feel freer and more open to receiving new things. True letting go is the acceptance of life's natural flow. We cannot stop change, nor can we keep what has already passed. Sometimes we fear change because it brings uncertainty, anxiety, and even pain. But when we understand that change brings growth, new opportunities, and valuable lessons, we see that change is in fact a gift. The Buddha taught that change is inevitable, and letting go is opening the heart so that we can embrace it with ease. When we release our ego and our attachment to what is old, we discover that we can live freely in the present, unbound by the past or anxious about the future. Life will not always unfold as we wish, but it is precisely these changes, big or small, that create opportunities for us to transform and renew ourselves. Accepting change also means learning to live in the present. When we no longer worry about what is past or what might come, we can feel peace in this very moment. The Buddha taught that life only has true value when we know how to cherish every second of the present. Every change in life, whether painful or joyful, brings us an opportunity to learn and grow. When we understand that change is an inseparable part of life, we will find it lighter to live, free from pressure and fear. Sometimes we must let go of loved ones, relationships, or unfulfilled dreams. These are major changes we cannot avoid. Yet in such losses, we also find growth. The Buddha said, when one door closes, another will open. Change, even when painful, is a chance to open our hearts, to learn to love and accept life's imperfections. Life is not a straight path, but a continuous flow. Every change has its reason, and every change brings us new opportunities to grow and to discover more about ourselves and the world around us. When we learn to let go and accept change, we can live lightly and freely without fear or worry for the future. So, if you are feeling anxious or afraid of changes in your life, remember that it is change that gives you the chance to renew yourself. Learn to let go of what no longer serves you and welcome the new, for life is full of surprises and opportunities waiting to be embraced. Live in the present, treasure each moment, and do not fear change, for every change is part of the journey of healing, growth, and maturity. Inner peace is something we all long for, but few realize it does not come from perfecting everything around us. It comes from stillness within our own hearts. Life will always bring challenges and unavoidable storms, but the Buddha taught that true peace comes from how we face those challenges, from understanding that perfection is not necessary to feel whole and at ease. I remember once sitting beside my close friend, a young woman named Hoa. She always set very high standards for herself, wanting everything to be perfect, from her work to her relationships, from meals to meetings. Whenever something did not go as she wished, Hoa felt uneasy, tense, and worried. Why can't everything be as perfect as I want? She would often ask herself. One day, while we were sitting in a small cafe, she shared with me her struggles at work. I keep worrying, afraid I'm not good enough, not perfect enough to achieve what I want, Hoa said. I looked at her and could see she was caught in the high waves of worry and fear, like a boat lost in a stormy sea. I gently told her, Hoa, peace doesn't come from making everything around you perfect. Peace comes from accepting what's imperfect and learning to live with it. My words seemed simple, but they made her pause and reflect. Indeed, she had spent so much time chasing perfection that she forgot life itself is not perfect. Difficulties, mistakes, and failures are all part of life. We cannot avoid them, but what matters is how we face them. The Buddha taught that our minds are like the surface of a lake. Without waves, the water is calm. With wind and storms, it becomes disturbed. Yet the important thing is not whether waves appear, but whether we let our hearts be swept away by them. When we are not overly affected by the outside world, when we do not let fear, worry, or expectations control our emotions and thoughts, that is when our hearts are truly at peace. Hoa's story reminded me of another time when I met an elderly woman named Mrs. Lamb. She was a deeply peaceful and happy person, even though her life had been far from easy. She had gone through many ups and downs, losing her beloved husband and raising 3 small children on her own. Yet she always kept calm in her heart, never complaining or dwelling on misfortune. When I asked her the secret to living in peace, she smiled kindly and said, "Peace doesn't come from the absence of hardship. It comes from knowing how to live within hardship without letting it control you. Everything can change, but if we do not know how to let go and accept what cannot be changed, we will live forever in exhaustion and sorrow. Her words felt like a ray of light in my mind. Perhaps peace in life is simply learning to accept things as they are. Perhaps peace is not something distant, but the ability to master our emotions and thoughts in any situation. The Buddha taught that while we cannot change what has already happened, we can change how we perceive it and the attitude we take toward it. Life is never perfect, and if we keep waiting for perfection, we will miss the precious moments it has to offer. True peace comes from learning to accept imperfection, from living in the present, and from finding joy in the simplest things. When we accept that nothing around us can be flawless, we stop living in anxiety or disappointment and instead live lightly and freely. Peace, then, is not when life is free of difficulties, but when we know how to face challenges calmly without letting them sweep away the serenity within us. Peace is when we no longer worry about the past or the future, but live fully in each present moment. And in those moments, we find stillness, lightness, and true joy. On life's journey, one of the most profound lessons the Buddha taught is letting go. Many people think letting go is surrender, weakness, abandoning everything that once mattered. But the Buddha taught that letting go is not weakness. It is an inner strength, a liberation of the heart, helping us find true peace within ourselves. Letting go is an art of living, a way to master ourselves and avoid being ruled by what is unnecessary. It is not escapism, cowardice, or giving up on life. It is awakening to the truth that not everything holds value and not everything is worth keeping in our hearts. When we release what no longer brings happiness or peace, we find freedom within. Life is always changing, and things do not always go as we wish. We will face challenges, hardships, and sometimes the very things we've held dear will bring us exhaustion and pain. In such moments, letting go is not weakness. It is choosing to face life's reality and freeing ourselves from unnecessary mental burdens. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from clinging, from being unable to release the old worries, anger, or resentment we hold inside. When we do not let go, those emotions take root in our hearts, weighing us down and preventing us from feeling peace. In Buddhism, letting go is freeing ourselves from suffering and negative emotions we do not need to carry. When we learn to let go, we no longer live in fear, worry, or sadness about the past. Letting go does not mean abandoning responsibilities or goals. It means understanding that what does not belong to us, what cannot be changed, does not need to remain in our hearts. This is the power of letting go, the strength that allows us to live more lightly, more freely, and in doing so to find true happiness. When we know how to let go, we stop allowing things beyond our control to dominate us. We no longer let outside events disturb our minds, nor let negative emotions like anger, resentment, or disappointment overwhelm our hearts. Letting go is learning to live in the present, not weighed down by the past, nor burdened by worries of the future. This is self-mastery, freedom of the heart, a strength not everyone recognizes. The Buddha taught that one cause of suffering is attachment, clinging to things that cannot last, like relationships, possessions, or past emotions. When we cling to them, we cannot live fully in the present, cannot welcome new experiences, and cannot feel peace within. Thus, letting go is how we free ourselves from these bonds, so we can live a free life, untouched by what is unnecessary. Letting go is not abandoning everything. It is accepting what can change and releasing what no longer brings happiness. Mastering ourselves and letting go of what we do not need is an inner liberation, helping us live more lightly and freely. We will no longer dwell in the wounds of the past, nor in anger or fear about the future. When we let go, we live with compassion, with understanding, and with acceptance of things as they are. We must learn to let go not only in hard times, but in every moment of life. Whenever a negative emotion arises, take a moment to recognize and accept it, but do not let it control your mind or actions. This is how we free ourselves from suffering and live a life of wholeness and peace. Letting go is a long journey, but it is one that leads us to freedom and serenity of the soul. A life without chains, free from the grip of what is unnecessary. Remember, letting go is not weakness, it is true human strength. The strength of self-mastery, of living a free and peaceful life, and of liberating the heart to welcome true love and happiness. Learn to let go, and you will find freedom within yourself, to live a life full of meaning and joy. When we speak of letting go, many may think of it as something difficult and exhausting, because letting go seems like giving up a part of ourselves. But in truth, letting go is not loss or abandonment, it is liberation. The Buddha taught that letting go not only frees us from pain and negative emotions, but also creates space for love and peace to fill our hearts. When we let go, the first thing we notice is the relief it brings to both mind and body. The burdens are set down, and worry, anger, or guilt no longer occupy our hearts. In that state, our spirit becomes free, no longer bound by the past, no longer fearful of the future. When we stop clinging to what has been, we find ourselves living more fully in the present. In that moment, we begin to feel a peace that comes from the freedom within. Letting go is not an easy journey, especially when it means releasing relationships, expectations, or familiar things. Yet, it is in that very act of release that we open a new space, a space where love can enter, where we can welcome goodness and freshness into our lives. The Buddha taught, when your heart is full of negative emotions, there is no room for love and peace. Letting go of worry, anger, and negativity is how we clear away the obstacles so that love can flow in and nourish our souls. Like a jar already full, if we refuse to empty it, it cannot hold anything new. If we do not release negative emotions, hurts, and sorrow, we cannot receive love, kindness, and peace from the world or from within ourselves. When we let go, we not only free ourselves from suffering, but also create room for love to grow. Love in life does not only come from others, it comes, more importantly, from self-love, from forgiveness, and from self-acceptance. The Buddha taught that love is not something we must search for outside. It is something we can cultivate from within. When we free ourselves from the bonds of the past, when we release pain and resentment, we realize that love has always been within us, waiting for us to open our hearts to it. Loving ourselves is how we care for our souls, with understanding and compassion for our own being. Moreover, letting go is not only an act of freeing ourselves from negative emotions, it is also accepting life as it is. It is accepting that everything changes, that difficulties and challenges are unavoidable, but they are not permanent. And in this process, we learn to love and care for ourselves, understanding that every step of life's journey is an opportunity to grow, to love, and to share peace with others. Letting go is the first step toward creating space for love. Love is not only what we receive from others, but also what we give ourselves, caring for our inner being, forgiving the mistakes of the past, and opening our hearts to peace. When we let go of negativity, we not only lighten our hearts, but also create space for love, peace, and connection with those around us. We can feel love in every moment of life, in simple things, in smiles, in acts of sharing, and in our very own hearts. So, when you feel weighed down by worry, sadness, or unease, take a moment to let go. Allow yourself to be freed from the bonds of the past, no longer clinging to pain, anger, or negative emotions. When you do, you will find your heart more open, filled with love and peace in every moment and every breath. Letting go is liberation, and in that liberation we discover true love, the natural and peaceful love life offers us. Letting go is not always easy, especially when we must face loss and pain in life. Sometimes life brings great challenges, loss of loved ones, failure in work, or painful farewells. Yet it is in those very situations that letting go becomes the key to regaining peace, to rising again, and to living more serenely. Imagine someone who has just lost a loved one. The grief and pain can overwhelm their heart, drowning them in tears and helplessness. But if they cannot let go of that grief, if they cannot accept the truth that their loved one is gone, they will remain imprisoned in the past. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from loss itself, but from our inability to accept life's changes. When we let go, we do not forget the one who has passed. We learn to live with the truth, allowing love and the beautiful memories of them to stay in our hearts without causing us pain. The story of someone who has lost a loved one can clearly illustrate letting go. When they accept the loss and release the pain, they begin to feel peace within. They understand that death is a natural part of life, and while sadness remains, they need not live in that sorrow forever. They remember their loved one with love, without letting grief consume their heart. The Buddha taught, live in the present. Do not let the past burden your steps. In this way, they find peace again, continuing to live a full and meaningful life. Another example is those who experience failure in their work. It could be a major project that collapses, or a career opportunity that slips away. Feelings of disappointment, insecurity, and anxiety can weigh heavily on their hearts, making them feel as though they cannot go on. But if they do not learn to let go of failure, if they do not learn to rise after a fall, they will remain trapped in worry and fear. The Buddha taught that failure is not the end, but a valuable lesson that helps us grow. Letting go of negative emotions without blaming ourselves or the circumstances, and instead learning from mistakes allows us to move forward. We can find many stories of people who overcame failure at work and regained inner peace. One person, after losing their job, chose not to let that failure break them. Instead of drowning in disappointment, they began to reflect on themselves, seek new opportunities, and develop new skills. They learned to release guilt and self-blame, replacing them with acceptance and trust in the future. Though they may still face challenges, it was this act of letting go that helped them rise again, regain confidence, and continue their career journey. A breakup in love is also a situation that leaves many feeling stuck and in pain. When a relationship ends and someone we love is no longer by our side, the loneliness and emptiness can feel like a shattered heart. But if we do not learn to let go, if we cannot accept that things have ended, we will live forever in the past and be unable to move forward. The Buddha taught that in love, as in all things, letting go is not the end, it is the opening of a new beginning. Accepting that a relationship is no longer the best for both people is a way to free ourselves from being imprisoned in the past, allowing our hearts to open to new love and peace. The story of someone after a breakup can serve as a lesson in letting go. They may feel heartbroken and unsure how to continue, but once they learn to release the past, they begin to find themselves again. They understand that love is not something to possess, but to share with mutual respect. Letting go does not mean abandoning love. It means loving oneself, accepting change, and opening up to better things ahead. From these real-life situations, we can see that letting go is not weakness or surrender to circumstances. It is the true strength that allows us to overcome life's difficulties. Letting go is the act of a strong person, an acceptance of life as it is, and a path to genuine peace and happiness. The Buddha taught that when we know how to let go, we not only free ourselves from pain, but also create space for love, peace, and joy to fill our hearts. Letting go is a concept we often hear, but not everyone truly understands its depth. For many, it may simply mean relaxing the mind and avoiding being burdened by unimportant things. But in reality, letting go is more than that. It is an expression of compassion toward ourselves and others. Letting go is the choice to live sincerely, with understanding and unconditional love. I remember a story about my friend, Lan. She was highly skilled in her work, but she carried an endless worry within her. She feared she could never please everyone, that she was never good enough in the eyes of others. She always strove for perfection in everything, from work to relationships, trapped in an endless cycle of pressure. One day, I saw her sitting quietly alone in a cafe, her eyes weary as if she had been facing too much. I approached and asked, "You seem so tired. What's going on?" She sighed, her gaze heavy with sadness. "I feel like I'm never doing enough, never good enough. I can't please everyone, and it hurts so much to think about it." Her words revealed a burden she had been carrying for a long time. Looking into her eyes, I understood that her worry came from a loving heart, but one weighed down by tension and self-blame. I gently said, Lan, sometimes letting go isn't about giving up. It's about allowing yourself to breathe, to live more fully. Letting go is also a way to show compassion to yourself. She looked at me with surprise, as if she had never thought about it that way. I continued, when we worry too much about pleasing others, we forget ourselves. We forget that we too need love and care. Letting go means giving yourself permission to be free from too much pressure, letting your heart rest in peace, no longer shaken by impossible expectations. Those words seemed like a ray of light in her heart. She began to realize that to love and help others sincerely, we must first learn to love ourselves. Without compassion for ourselves, we cannot bring lightness and love to those around us. When we release worries and excessive expectations, we discover freedom and lightness in our own hearts. In life, we often become too busy trying to change everything, to make everything perfect. But this very effort can lead us into stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. We cannot control everything, and sometimes letting go of what cannot be changed is the only way to find peace in our hearts. Letting go is not abandonment, it is acceptance. Acceptance that life is imperfect, yet we can still live fully and love deeply despite challenges and hardships. In human relationships, letting go is also a way to show compassion and unconditional love. Loving someone is not always easy. Sometimes we must accept that they have flaws, weaknesses, and imperfections. Letting go in love means loving them without expecting them to change to fit our standards. Letting go is a way to love unconditionally, to accept everything as it truly is. There is a small story that I always remember. Once I was sitting and talking with an old friend of mine. He was a very quiet and humble person. He told me about his first love, a relationship he had tried so hard to protect, doing everything he could to make his partner happy. But in the end, she left, and he felt utterly devastated. He said, I did everything I could to keep her, but in the end, she still left. I can't understand why, but now I just want to let go and let everything pass. He paused for a moment, then looked into my eyes and said, I realize that when you love someone, you can't keep them through control or perfection. Sometimes loving means knowing when to let go so that they can be free and so that your own heart can be at peace. That statement truly moved me. Indeed, letting go in love means giving the person you love the space to live their life and giving yourself the chance to live in freedom and happiness without being bound by what cannot be changed. Therefore, letting go is not abandonment. It is understanding. It is understanding that everything comes and goes with the flow of life, and we cannot control it all. Letting go is a way to live sincerely, to love unconditionally, and to make life lighter. When we learn to let go, we will see our soul free, and love and compassion will naturally flow to those around us. In life's journey, we often hear about freedom, a broad concept that many people dream of attaining. But true freedom is not an escape from all bonds, nor is it the ability to do anything we want without limits. True freedom is the ability to master ourselves, to choose what will lead us to happiness and peace. And one of the paths to that freedom is letting go. When we let go, we are not only freeing ourselves from negative emotions, anxieties, or unnecessary material possessions, but also creating an open space in the soul. The Buddha teaches that letting go is not rejecting life or abandoning responsibilities. It is an act of liberation, freeing ourselves from unnecessary mental and emotional attachments. Every time we learn to let go of anger, anxiety, sadness, or anything that no longer serves our growth, we will feel lighter and freer. We can imagine the human soul as a space. If that space is cluttered with too many things, there will be no room to enjoy freedom. Similarly, when our mind is occupied by worries, sorrow, or attachment to the past, we cannot feel true freedom. Letting go is like cleaning up the inner space, allowing the heart to become open and calm, so that love and peace can flow in. Freedom is not the absence of all bonds, but the ability to choose consciously. The Buddha teaches that when we let go, we are no longer controlled by things that no longer serve our growth. If a person remains immersed in resentment or negative emotions from the past, they are imprisoning themselves within those very bonds. Letting go means no longer allowing emotions or thoughts that are no longer suitable to dictate our life. This is true freedom, not freedom from having no ties, but freedom from having the ability to decide what to keep and what to release. In reality, you may encounter situations, relationships, or jobs that no longer suit you. But instead of clinging to them out of fear, ingrained habit, or external pressure, you can learn to let go. This kind of letting go is not abandoning responsibilities or commitments. It is choosing peace for yourself. The Buddha teaches, when you let go, you lose nothing. You simply make space for peace and happiness. When we let go of things that no longer bring positive value, we find ourselves living more lightly, more fully, and more freely in every moment. The connection between letting go and freedom can be clearly seen in everyday life. We can think of times when we walked away from an unhealthy relationship or left a job that no longer aligned with our values. These decisions may have been painful, but by letting go, we created space for new opportunities, new relationships, and personal growth. That is freedom, the ability to choose the right path for ourselves without being bound by the past or harmful habits. True freedom is not running away from responsibilities or avoiding difficulties. Freedom is when we can face the truth, when we do not let things beyond our control dictate our lives. The Buddha teaches that freedom comes from within, from mastering our emotions, from letting go of what is unnecessary, and from accepting life's changes. When we master ourselves, when we do not let emotions or external circumstances control us, we will feel a profound freedom within our own hearts. Letting go is a process of learning and practice. Each day we can ask ourselves, does this still serve me? Can I let it go to live more peacefully? When we release what no longer contributes to our growth, we create a spacious openness for new and better things to enter. We become freer in making decisions, freer to love and care for ourselves, and freer to welcome new opportunities. Buddha taught that freedom is not the absence of all constraints, but the ability to choose, an awareness of what we can keep and what we should let go of. And when we learn to let go, we truly feel free, light, and at peace within our own hearts. Failure, for many, is something deeply painful and difficult to accept. We often feel shame, disappointment, and a sense of inadequacy when faced with it. Yet the Buddha taught that failure is not a bad thing, but rather an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve ourselves. Learning to let go of guilt and insecurity connected to failure is an essential part of finding peace and continuing our personal growth. Life is never a perfectly smooth path, and we will inevitably face failures along the way. They may come from unsuccessful projects, broken relationships, or wrong choices. However, the Buddha taught that each failure carries within it a lesson, an opportunity to learn and mature. Failure is not the end, but a part of being human, a stepping stone for us to rise stronger. When faced with failure, one of the most important things we can do is learn to let go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means accepting that we did our best, but the result did not match our expectations. Letting go is choosing not to let guilt, insecurity, or self-blame dominate our minds. When we cannot change the outcome, continuing to carry guilt or disappointment only makes us heavier, and it does nothing to help our growth. For example, consider someone who fails at work. Perhaps they poured time and energy into a project only for it to fall short. The disappointment and guilt can weigh heavily, making them feel inadequate. Yet, if they do not learn to let go of those feelings, they cannot move forward. They will remain trapped in negative thoughts and worries about the past instead of focusing on new opportunities ahead. The Buddha taught that when facing failure, the key is to view it with clarity and wisdom. Failure is not something unacceptable, but an inevitable part of learning and growth. Each fall is a chance to stand up, learn from mistakes, and improve ourselves. When we learn to let go of guilt and insecurity, we realize that failure is only a lesson. It does not define who we are. We are not our failures. We are what we learned from them. When we let go of guilt, we open a new space in our hearts for peace to enter. That is when we are no longer held back by negative thoughts about ourselves. We learn to forgive ourselves because every failure is natural in life and it does not determine our worth. Every time we release self-blame, we can go further, not just in our careers, but in our personal lives as well. Moreover, letting go after failure makes us stronger. When we refuse to let failure defeat us, we discover that we can face difficulties without fear and rise again after each fall. The Buddha taught that true strength does not come from never falling, but from the ability to rise each time we do. When we let go of negative emotions after failure, we become more resilient, unshaken by life's storms. The story of someone learning to let go after failure can be a vivid example of growth and peace. They may once have been disappointed for not achieving what they hoped for, but instead of blaming themselves, they chose to learn from mistakes, improve, and keep trying. They understood that no failure is useless if we see it as a lesson. They refused to let negativity control them, using failure instead as motivation to move forward. Letting go in the face of failure is liberation. When we no longer torment ourselves over mistakes, we feel lighter and freer. This is true freedom. Freedom from the torment of guilt, freedom from insecurity, and freedom to keep living and growing. The Buddha taught that liberation does not come from avoiding failure, but from accepting and learning from it. So whenever you face failure in life, don't let it drag you down. Learn to let go of guilt and insecurity, and remember that failure is only one step in your greater journey. When you let go, you will find yourself freer, stronger, and able to go further on the path to inner peace. Loss is an unavoidable part of life. Whether it is the loss of a loved one, a dear friend, or something important in our lives, each loss leaves deep wounds within us. Yet letting go in these moments is not abandonment. It is learning to accept, to cherish the beautiful memories, and to allow the pain to pass naturally. My story, a close friend of mine, is a very clear example of letting go when faced with loss. Mai had just lost her only beloved mother, the person who had always been her source of comfort and trust throughout her life. Her mother was a wonderful woman, always loving and caring for her family with all her heart, but a serious illness took her away suddenly and painfully. In the first days after her mother passed away, Mai almost lost all sense of the world around her. She cried until she had no more tears, sitting silently by her mother's portrait, holding on to her grief without knowing what to do. Every day, she tried to get up and go through the motions, but her soul seemed to have fallen into a deep abyss, without light, without a way out. I visited her many times, and each time she remained silent, her eyes empty and weary. One day, I sat with her on the long couch in her living room, and seeing how exhausted she looked, I gently said, "Mai, this pain is unavoidable, but if we lock ourselves in sorrow forever, we won't be able to keep living." Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It's about learning to accept the loss and letting the pain pass naturally. At first, she was silent, not answering, but then she softly said, "I can't forget my mother. I can't let go." I looked into her eyes and said, "Your mother will always be in your heart." Letting go doesn't mean forgetting her. It's about freeing your heart from being consumed by pain. The memories with your mother will always be the most precious thing in your life. We can't change the past, but we can learn to live with those memories without letting them hurt us forever. Mai quietly nodded, her eyes still wet, but now holding a glimmer of light. She began to understand that, to live peacefully again, she couldn't remain forever in grief. She needed to cherish the memories and moments that had passed. Loss is something none of us want, but it's acceptance and letting go that allow us to move through that pain, to live a lighter and more meaningful life. Sometimes in life, we also face unforeseen losses. Losing a loved one, a close friend, or something important can leave us feeling empty, shaken, and deeply hurt. Yet in those moments, letting go doesn't mean giving up or forgetting. It means freeing ourselves from being trapped in pain, accepting and cherishing the good that once was. When I think about loss in life, I remember the story of another friend of mine, Hong. He lost his beloved wife after a long illness. She had been the one who cared for their family and a wonderful partner he loved for many years. In the days after her passing, Hong lived in grief and despair. But instead of letting the pain last forever, he chose to live fully with the beautiful memories he had with her. He had no regrets, for he had loved wholeheartedly. One afternoon, as we sat together, he shared, "I learned something important from this loss. Losing someone you love is painful, but it also helps you realize that life doesn't always let you keep what you want. You have to accept what has happened and cherish the beautiful memories you had. Letting go is how I can keep living and continue loving the people still in my life." Hong's words were like a guiding light, helping me see that letting go is not abandoning memories or feelings. It's a way for us to live more lightly, free from being bound by the past, free from the weight of pain. When we face loss, letting go is how we accept that life has things we cannot change. Yet it's precisely this acceptance that allows us to keep living with beautiful memories and to move forward with a strong, loving heart. Letting go is not to forget, it's to let the pain pass so our hearts are no longer heavy. We learn to cherish what's gone and live peacefully so we can love and share good things with those around us. We often set high expectations for the future, hoping that one day everything will be perfect, that we'll have the ideal job, a happy family, or a fulfilled life with everything we desire. However, reality rarely goes exactly as we expect, and sometimes those expectations become burdens, robbing us of peace in the present. The Buddha teaches that letting go of the expectation of a perfect future is the way to live more fully, to enjoy each moment without worrying about the outcome. We cannot deny that everyone has dreams, goals, and hopes for the future. But when we focus too much on them, we can easily forget that life is not only about reaching the goal, it is also about the journey. Every moment of life has value, even if it's not what we imagined. The Buddha teaches, do not let your mind be carried away by expectations for the future. Live in the present, enjoy each moment as it is, and accept what you have now. Expectations of a perfect future are often the root of anxiety and unrest in the heart. We may live in a constant state of dissatisfaction with what we have, always dreaming of a better tomorrow. However, this mindset keeps us trapped in a sense of lack, unable to fully appreciate the abundance of the present moment. In reality, there is no such thing as a perfect future. Life is always changing. Sometimes it rises, sometimes it falls. It has successes, but also failures. If we keep living in expectation of an ideal future, we will miss out on many beautiful things happening right now. Letting go of expectations does not mean giving up dreams. It means learning to accept and love the present. When we are no longer controlled by unrealistic expectations, we begin to realize that life is always filled with wonders unfolding around us. Every person, every event has its own value and lesson. True release from expectations is when we live fully with what we have, seeing life as a journey of learning and growth. The Buddha taught that life is impermanent. Everything will change, and it is through accepting this change that we find peace. For example, if we expect a certain job to bring us all the success and happiness we desire, we may feel disappointed when it doesn't happen. But if we learn to let go of that expectation, we will see that each job, that each opportunity has its own value. Failure or challenges at work are not the end, but part of the process of learning and growth. When we release expectations about a specific outcome, we can focus on doing our best in the present moment. And it is this very process that brings true satisfaction and peace to the heart. Another example is in relationships. We may expect those around us to treat us in a certain way, to understand and love us exactly as we want. But these expectations can be the very cause of disappointment, as reality rarely meets all our demands. Letting go of expectations about how others should treat us helps us avoid feeling hurt and frees us from being controlled by their actions. The Buddha taught that love is not about demanding, it is about giving, about understanding and accepting others as they are. This letting go is not abandonment, it is freedom of the heart. When we are no longer bound by expectations of results, we feel freer to live with what truly exists. We are no longer tense or anxious about things we cannot control, but instead focus on what we can do well right now. The Buddha taught that only when we release our craving can we welcome true peace and happiness. Letting go of expectations for an ideal future is also an important part of healing. When we no longer cling to unrealistic hopes, we release the negative emotions within, creating space for peace and happiness to fill our hearts. This acceptance allows us to live more fully, not just in work or relationships, but in our everyday lives. Finally, remember that life does not always go according to our plans, and that is its magic. Releasing expectations of a perfect future allows us to live with what truly exists, enjoying each present moment without worrying about outcomes. Accepting the present is the first step to finding freedom in the heart, and that is the path to true peace and happiness. In daily life, we often form habits without even realizing it, until they begin to control our thoughts and actions. These habits might include excessive worry about the future, lingering anger over the past, or even clinging to old routines that no longer bring happiness, simply out of habit. The Buddha taught that letting go of unhealthy habits not only frees us from mental burdens, but also helps us rediscover true peace and happiness in our hearts. Worry is one of the most common habits many of us fall into. We worry about things that haven't happened, about matters beyond our control. The Buddha taught that worry is just like a passing cloud in the mind. It is not real and cannot change reality. In truth, worry only adds more tension and discomfort, keeping our hearts from being at ease. When we worry too much about what is yet to come, we cannot live fully with what we have right now. Letting go of worry does not mean neglecting the future. It means living in the present, enjoying the moments we have without letting anxiety take over. For example, there may be times when we fear failure, when we think our efforts will not lead to the results we desire. But if we keep living in that fear, we will never be able to act freely and wisely. The Buddha taught that in every moment, we have the power to master our thoughts and emotions. When we release worry, we feel peace in the heart, and from that place, we can make clearer, wiser decisions in life. Another unhealthy habit that many of us often fall into is holding on to anger. Anger is a natural emotion, but when we let it linger and cling to it, it ends up harming ourselves. The Buddha teaches that anger is like a fire that burns the soul. It does not harm others as much as it destroys our own being. When we are angry, we are often caught up in negative emotions, and our mind cannot find peace. Letting go of anger does not mean we condone the wrong actions of others. It is a way to free ourselves from the control of negative emotions so that anger does not become a burden in our lives. To let go of anger more easily, we need to learn to view things with clarity and objectivity. The Buddha teaches that when someone hurts us, they too are carrying their own suffering. Instead of letting anger take over, we can place ourselves in their position and understand that they also have their own pain. When we forgive and release anger, we feel lighter, no longer burdened, and our soul becomes freer and more serene. In addition, there are old habits that no longer bring us happiness, yet we hold on to them simply out of familiarity. These could be negative thoughts or limiting beliefs we have nurtured for a long time. The Buddha teaches that we are not our thoughts and beliefs. When we realize that these old habits do not help us grow or bring us peace, we can choose to change and adopt new ones. Letting go of outdated habits creates space for growth, allowing us to embrace new opportunities and challenges that life presents. When we let go of unhealthy habits, we begin to feel a positive transformation within ourselves. The Buddha teaches that change begins in the mind, and only when our hearts are light and free from the grip of negative emotions can we truly live a peaceful and liberated life. Imagine if, each day, we released a little worry, a little anger, a little unease. Our hearts would grow lighter and more serene. In doing so, we not only regain inner peace, but also live healthier and happier lives. Ultimately, letting go of unhealthy habits is not easy. It is a process that requires effort and persistence. But once we begin to see the value of letting go, we realize that every step on this journey leads us to a more peaceful life. The Buddha teaches that only when we learn to let go can we truly be free, and that freedom will bring us peace, happiness, and a wholesome, fulfilling life. The journey of letting go is a slow process, like gentle steps along a long road, where each small step teaches us to live more lightly, freely, and peacefully. Letting go is not something that can be accomplished in a single day. It is a never-ending journey where we learn to face pain, heal old wounds, and gradually discover how to relax, accept, and release what no longer belongs to us. I remember a time when I was talking with an old friend, Thu. She shared with me what she had been through over the years. Thu was a strong woman, yet she carried a lingering pain from a past relationship. She had deeply loved a man, but after a while, the relationship ended due to reasons beyond her control. She could not forget living constantly in the beautiful memories and the pain he had left in her heart. One day, she came to see me, her eyes tired and her face a little dazed. She said, "I know I should let go, but how can I forget those memories? Every time I think about them, my heart aches." I looked into her eyes and gently said, "Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. Letting go means learning to live with those memories without letting them control you. It's a process, a journey you will take, one step at a time." She stayed quiet and listened, so I continued. The journey of letting go isn't a fast race. It's a slow, steady walk, step by step, each day a little at a time. At first, it may feel hard, as if you can't release your grip, but gradually you will learn how to loosen your hold, to live with more lightness and peace. Thu looked at me and after a moment sighed, then softly said, "I know, but the pain keeps coming back. It haunts me." I took her hand and shared, "Yes, the pain won't disappear instantly, but with each day, as you learn to see it and accept it, that pain will lessen bit by bit." The journey of letting go is long and not always easy, but each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to peace. Thu began to understand that letting go was not abandonment. It was acceptance and learning to live with what cannot be changed. We cannot erase the past or our pain overnight, but day by day, step by step, we can learn to love and accept ourselves so that the pain is no longer a burden, but becomes a memory we can treasure. In life, we cannot always change everything. There are events beyond our control, and loss is something each of us will inevitably face. But instead of trying to avoid or deny the pain, we need to learn how to face it. It is the small steps in the process of letting go that gradually help us realize that each time we accept something, we become stronger, freer, and ultimately more at peace. I still remember a small story my grandmother used to tell me when I was little. She said that throughout her long life, she had gone through many hardships, from painful losses to unforeseen challenges. But what she learned was that whenever she faced difficulties, she did not try to resist or escape them. Instead, she learned to live with them, accept them, and let them pass. Life is not always easy, my grandmother often said, but if we learn to move through each day, the pain will also pass. It's not that we forget it, but we live with it without letting it control our lives. Indeed, the journey of letting go is a slow process, step by step. It is not a grand action that happens instantly, but a series of small changes in our thoughts and emotions. Each time we learn to accept something, we move closer to freedom and peace. It's like dropping a leaf into a river. The leaf does not rush away immediately, but slowly follows the current until it finally merges with the vast flow. In the same way, in life, we cannot let go of everything at once. But day by day, step by step, we learn to live more lightly, love ourselves more, and walk through life with freedom and peace. Letting go is not giving up. It is a release that helps us rediscover ourselves and live more fully with what we have. Life sometimes brings us pains we never expected, broken relationships, sad memories of the past, or deep wounds we have endured. All of these can weigh heavily on our hearts, making it difficult to open ourselves to new love. However, the Buddha teaches that to live happily and peacefully, we must learn to let go of old pains, creating space for love and peace to enter our hearts. When we no longer cling to sorrowful memories, we open ourselves more to those around us and to ourselves. When we hold on to pain, it becomes like an invisible shackle that binds us to the past. Feelings of anger, resentment, or regret only deepen our suffering. The Buddha teaches that letting go is not forgetting, but forgiving ourselves, releasing the negative emotions that have occupied our minds for too long. Letting go is an act of freedom, liberating us from the grip of the past, so our hearts can be lighter and more open. For example, in a romantic relationship, when love is gone, we may feel hurt and struggle to accept it. We may be haunted by old memories, trapped in the words and actions of the other person. But if we keep clinging to the past, we cannot move forward. Letting go does not mean abandoning love, but accepting the change and the truth that the relationship has ended. When we let go, we free not only ourselves, but also the other person, allowing both to find peace and their own happiness. The Buddha said, "When you let go, you lose nothing. You simply make space for new love to come." Similarly in life, when we stop holding on to sad memories and past wounds, we feel lighter. We no longer live in the shadow of pain. Instead, we open ourselves to joy and new opportunities. Love can come from those around us, from new relationships, but above all, it begins with loving ourselves. The Buddha teaches that love starts with caring for and forgiving ourselves by recognizing and accepting our own flaws. Imagine someone who has gone through a great loss, like losing a loved one. Grief may fill their heart, making it impossible for them to receive love from others. But when they learn to let go of old pain, when they understand that their loved one has passed and that life still goes on, they will see that they can love again, that they can accept care and kindness from others. In that act of letting go, they find peace in their soul, and their heart once again has room to love and be loved. Letting go is also a way for us to learn to live in the present. When we no longer cling to the past or fear the future, we can embrace each moment of life fully. The Buddha teaches that the present is a treasure, and if we do not live in it, we will lose the chance to enjoy what is precious right before our eyes. Letting go is when we cherish what we have, love those around us and ourselves, instead of endlessly regretting what has passed. Love does not always come from others. Sometimes love is the understanding and acceptance of oneself. When we learn to let go of guilt, anger, or the wounds in our hearts, we create space for true love. Loving yourself is not selfish. It is the awareness of your own value, the care for both your soul and body so you can live healthily and happily. We can imagine that each time we let go of a pain, a resentment, or a sad memory, our heart expands a little more, welcoming love from ourselves and from those around us. In that moment, we no longer feel lonely or lacking. Instead, we feel whole and fulfilled. The Buddha teaches that love is freedom, freedom from being controlled by sorrowful pasts, freedom to live fully with what we have now. Every step in the journey of letting go is a step closer to peace and happiness. We do not need to be perfect, nor do we need to have everything we desire. But when we learn to let go, we begin to feel that life is already complete. Letting go is how we allow love to flow in. It is the act of opening our hearts to receive goodness and to heal ourselves. And when our hearts are open, when we no longer cling to pain, we will see that love and happiness are always present in every moment of life. Life sometimes forces us to face pains and challenges that seem impossible to overcome. But within those very pains lie opportunities for us to grow, to find peace in our souls. The Buddha teaches that letting go is the way to dissolve all pain, to bring lightness and serenity to the heart. It is not abandonment or escape. It is acceptance. It is letting go of what no longer helps us grow, what no longer brings us happiness. When we know how to let go, we not only free ourselves from negative emotions, but also open our hearts to love and peace. Imagine that whenever you feel hurt, anxious, or confused, you take a moment to breathe deeply, to feel the peace that already exists within you. The Buddha teaches that just by pausing for a moment, releasing stressful thoughts, we can find peace in every breath. Letting go is not easy, but it is the path to freedom of the soul, freedom from the tug of war between negative emotions and painful thoughts. So do not let pain, anger, or anxiety control your life. Learn to let go of what is unnecessary, unhealthy habits, painful memories, so your heart can open wide, allowing love to pour in and fill your soul. Life will not always go as planned, but it is acceptance and letting go that will help you find peace even in life's turbulence. Remember, every day is a new opportunity to heal, to let go of the old, and to welcome the new. You do not need to be perfect, nor to have everything, but you deserve peace, happiness, and love. The Buddha teaches that when you let go, you lose nothing. You simply create space for goodness and love to enter your life. May you always find peace in every moment of life. Always learn to let go so your heart remains open, ready to receive love and happiness. Remember, you deserve peace and happiness in this life.